we're taught not to feel, not to question. This is how it's always been. So, that just in and of itself, most humans, and I'll speak for myself and my demographic, my generation, we automatically were slotted into school systems and banking systems and, political systems and governmental systems and things that were telling us from the get-go what to think and what to feel.
Welcome to the Enlighten Podcast, the enlightened journey of life. Because we're not just here to chase enlightenment, we are here to live life, to embody all aspects of ourselves, to bring the sacred into every day. I'm your host, Jen Hamilton, self-mastery mentor, tantra guide, and sacred rebel at heart. This podcast is a devotion to the art of knowing thyself. Through solo snippets, raw musings, and deep conversations with epic guests, we explore the sacred, the sensual, and the spiritual, diving deep into self-exploration and always leaving you with something to take away. This isn't just a podcast, it's a portal to awaken, to liberate, to remember who you truly are. It is an honor to have you here. Let's get enlightened. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Enlighten Podcast. I'm your host, Jen, and today's very special guest is another Jen, Jennifer Forster. Jennifer is a globally recognized NLP and timeline therapy trainer and co-founder of Inside the Mind, where she and her business partner, Allie May, are transforming the self-development industry from the inside out. With a unique gift for blending science-backed processes and ancient wisdom, Jen helps people to harness the language of their mind to release limiting beliefs, clear stuck emotions, and rewire their nervous system fast. Her work is rooted in the belief that we are human first, and she's known for creating instant and lasting transformation for clients all over the world. Beyond the certifications and the change work, Jen is a mum to two epic humans and a spirited Scottish fold kitty named Olive. She is a coffee connoisseur, a proud mental projector, and can often be found lying under the big trees in New Farm Park in Brisbane, singing in her local choir, parkrunning every Saturday morning, or powerlifting 100 kilos plus for funsies. She is also the author of The Power of a Peaceful Woman. She's a successful entrepreneur and an adventurer at heart. Her work invites you to come home to yourself and create your own truly free and beautiful life. I had such an amazing conversation with Jen. We had so much in common apart from just our name. And we got to dive into so many of our favorite topics together. I'm so excited for you to hear this interview. Jen is such an inspiring soul. So without further ado, let's dive in. Hello, welcome back to the Enlighten Podcast. I am Jen. I'm here with the other beautiful Jen. Welcome.
Thank you, Jen. I mean, what could not be more perfect today than having two Jens in a space side by side together.
Yes. And talking about things that we are both so in love with and so passionate about.
Well, before we even started talking, we have literally it just was like boom. The second I walked in, it was straight in. And I love having humans in my world that I can just drop into the depths of a juicy conversation with. And Jen, you are one of those people.
Yes, we're going to have an incredibly juicy conversation today. We have our ceremonial cacao. We have all of the things that we need right here in this moment. So we'll dive in. So you're an NLP trainer. You're co-founder of a training group called Inside the Mind.
Yes.
Tell us about the work that you do in this world.
Yeah. So I think the place to start in this conversation is not at the word NLP and back the truck up a little bit to the word human. So one of the things that that aligned Allie May and myself, which had us come together as NLP trainers and create our training organization Inside the Mind, was this microscoping conversations that we would have on the daily where we were microscoping ourselves as human beings.
I love that.
Through the lens of our NLP foundations and principles. However, it always came back to how we navigate the world as a human being. And also in that, acknowledging how far from being human most humans are. And it's no one's fault. It is literally how our planet operates. From birth we are moment by moment being shown to separate ourselves from ourselves. So we're taught not to feel, not to question. This is how it's always been. So that just in and of itself, most humans are and I'll speak for myself and my demographic, my generation. We automatically were slotted into school systems and banking systems and political systems and governmental systems and things that were telling us from the get-go what to think and what to feel. So, and even if we did feel something, I was one of those parents back in the day that was so proud of my tough kids that I'd raised by having them, if they fell down, I'd be like, no, you're okay, up you get, don't be sad. And now when I look at that from a being human perspective, it's so, it's just so fucked. That is
the disconnection.
The disconnection from being able to feel to being able to question ourselves and being able to be the observer of ourselves in our humanness. And I think one of the greatest disservices that the self-development industry is doing, and let's be honest here, it's a $1 billion industry, is that it's still largely participating in having humans be separate from their humanness, or at the very least teaching tools and modalities that are akin to putting a Band-Aid on a broken leg. So, like working from this version of us that has already had us become separate from ourselves before peeling everything back and stripping everything back and bringing us back to, oh, wait a second, oh, we're human. Oh, okay. How do we be human? How is it that we function on this planet being human without all the conditioning and without all the separation and without all the programming? So yeah, just circling back to the question, for us, that's what, for Allie and I, that's what NLP is about. It's very much a philosophy for us, and it's a way of living. Yeah.
I love that you said that, and we spoke off air about this as well, because and I've said this on the podcast before, that I feel as though NLP practitioners are like the new personal trainers from like 10, 15 years ago. Like every second person was popping up doing a weekend course and was then a personal trainer. And then we saw it with NLP, and then it's like breath work and I mean, cacao facilitator, like I'll, put my hand up to all of these things, which is great because, I love seeing people in this space, but I'm seeing shit coaches churned out. I'm seeing do NLP for $7. And it's just become another modality, another thing on the wall that people have to be like, look at me, look what I did. And it teaches processes, and it's such a powerful modality. It really is. But I love that you guys are like, it's a philosophy.
It is a philosophy.
It's not just a process. It's not just a way in which you do this to get that.
No. And, to be really frank here, if someone is looking just to get an NLP certificate, we're not the trainers for you. We're just not. In our space, we are going to show you how to live NLP as a philosophy, as a way of life. It's not something that you're going to just do in a weekend. It is a for life process. It's a for life philosophy. So there's for Allie and I, there's no separation between us as trainers, us as NLP practitioners, us as human beings, us as women, there is no separation. We just operate with some foundations that support us to be the most human being living that life. And that, again, I'll come back to it over and over again. I just do not believe that humans know how to be human. We know how to not be human.
Yes.
And that's the issue on our planet. And if we have a look, God, I love this conversation, Jen. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. If we go back to, over the last couple of thousand years, of humanity and human history, if we really have a look at it and have an honest look, humans haven't changed.
No.
We really haven't changed. Not at a cellular level, not at a core level, not at a human level. Yep, sure, technology has changed. Our environment has changed. We don't live in, brick huts anymore. We live in beautiful cities and homes and what have you. However, to me, as human beings and the way we operate, we have not changed at all in the last couple of thousand years. We still have this, to the death need to be right.
Oh, right.
We still fight and argue over our positions and opinions. We still are angry most of the time. We're still pissed off and whinging and complaining most of the time.
Yeah.
And to me, that has, there's no difference in how we do that today. Sure, the environment we do it in is different. However, the human itself is fundamentally, I believe we're still the same.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to hear from you. Was there a catalyst moment for you that shifted you into this space? Were you born going like, oh, I am here to be human, or were you a little fucked up along the way too?
I was definitely. I will very happily talk about a few versions of Jen. There's been a lot of versions of Jen. However, yes, there was a time. So I was so in this conditioning, Jen, for the majority of my fucking life.
Yeah.
Like truly, for the majority of my life, I was so in this, I am this voice that's driving me. I had no concept that there was anything other than this singular voice in my head that ran my life, and I thought I was that voice. I was so sure I was. I mean, how could it? Well, I mean, I had no access to anything to contrast
It's
that.
in my head. It's me.
It's me. It's in my head. It's me. I'm thinking this, so it's me. I'm feeling this, so it's me. I'm fucked off right now, so this is me. And the push and the fight. And then I look at the conditioning that I had as a small child, and this is not a reflection on our parents, because I have contributed to the conditioning of my children who are young adults now. And I know that, and I own that, and I accept that, and I accept that that is true, not just for me, not just for my parents. It's true for every single human being. We are all the live long day contributing or contaminating the space of the human in front of us. And so, so what happened? So it was the year of 2017, and I call it, this was this monumental year for me. I was 51, I think, around about 51. And I was driving to, so first of all, that year, my overachiever was at her peak that year, like at her peak. So every year I would make a list of things that I wanted to do, and then systematically I would just tick them off. So 2017 was, like the cataclysmic version of the overachiever. When I tell you what I set for myself and did in 2017, it's no wonder I got to the point that I did at the end of the year. So I set a goal. I set a goal that I was going to, I'd just been engaged by a couple of, business people, entrepreneurs, to build a business for them from a business plan. So they just had the business plan. The building that the business was going to be housed in wasn't even built. And they handed me the business plan and said, can you bring this to life? And I go, I take that business plan, as this, young, enthusiastic, entrepreneurial person myself, and went, sure. And I'll have it profitable for you in the first 6 months of being open. So that was the first goal I set. Then, I also had been working in Saudi Arabia and wanted to go back and eventually work overseas again. And I knew that to get the really good job offers, if I had a master's of some description, that was going to be really beneficial. So I decided that in 2017, I would do my MBA, my master's in business administration, and I'd do it in 12 months, which I don't think you can do now, because it's basically back-to-back subjects, no break. So I go, yep, I'm going to do that too. And I'm a bit of an adventurer, so I decided that in 2017 that was going to be the year that I trekked to Everest Base Camp as well.
Wow.
And then I kind of went, oh, well, if I'm training to do Everest Base Camp, I may as well throw in a 100-kilometer ultra trail marathon as well. Now, in amongst all that, of course, were all the micro daily bits and pieces that went with all of that. They were the big things, though. And so systematically, tick, 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 tick them all off. Came back from my graduation ceremony at the end of 2017 in the November, and became ill with a mystery illness, which I just
say.
I know, right? It's like, wow, how fun. And I spent a night in hospital. They thought it was viral meningitis. There was all this, hoo-ha going on. Anyway, while I was in this convalescing state, what happened was I slipped into this depressive episode. And I remember laying in my bed in my room, and I couldn't understand that I just had probably one of the most successful years of my entire life. And yet here I am now laying, feeling underwhelmed, underfulfilled, empty, alone, sad, and like I was not worth anything. And I'd done enough personal development and self-development, and I'd been working in the coaching industry prior to that as well. And so I knew enough to ask myself some questions, and that was my saving grace, those questions. So I started to ask myself, who would I be if I didn't set goals? And my first response was like, this sharp inhalation of breath. And I could feel, it felt like death. It really felt like death, or death would be preferable. And so I knew, I'm like, fuck, I don't have this thing called goals. This thing called goals has me.
Oh, yeah.
So I pondered that for a little bit, and went back to this job, this corporate thing that I was leading and having profitable and all the rest of it. And I was driving to work one day, and I was listening to a podcast, and the person being interviewed was Michael Singer.
Oh, I love Michael Singer. Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah. So I'm listening to this podcast. I think it was Oprah. I think it was the Soul podcast that she used to do, Soul Sunday or something. Anyway, so I'm hearing him interviewed, and she asked him about this particular chapter in his book, The Untethered Soul. That's what he was talking about. And he spoke about death, and he spoke about the angel of death and the concept of the angel of death. And he said, Oprah, imagine, I'm driving to work. Imagine that the angel of death comes down and stands before you right now, and they say, okay, come on, Oprah, giddy up. Let's go. It's time to go. We're out of here. Let's go. He said, what do you think you would say at that moment? And she said, well, I'd probably say something like, wait, right now I'm in the middle of an interview. Can I just finish my coffee? Actually, there's some other things I'd like, some other loose ends I'd like. Could I have one more week? And Michael was very bemused in this interview, and he said, yeah, most people would. And he said, and what the angel of death would probably turn and say to you in that moment would be something like, Oprah, I've given you 52 of those weeks this last year alone.
Wow.
Why do you need one more? And that, Jen, for me was like the biggest bolt of lightning into my heart space, because I knew that where I was going and what I was doing and how I was going to be spending that day and the rest of that week, I would for sure ask for one more week. I would for sure. And so that was, when you hear something or see something and you just can't unhear it or unsee it, and it just stays with it. The rest of the day, I was going through my day and I'm having these mindless bloody conversations about the strength of the coffee in the coffee machines, crazy stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, this is not this. I don't want to live like this.
This isn't life.
This isn't life. So I've had those two experiences. Now I'm pondering that. That was the end of November. This was probably December. So now I'm really in the pondering of this information that I now can't unknow or unexperience. And shortly after that, the beginning of 2018, I walked into this job and I just quit. And they were like, what do you mean you're quitting? Where are you going? What are you up to? What's happening? And I said, I don't know. All I know is not this. Not this. And so that was the start of this iteration of me, this version of me that became familiar with the part of me that is human and began to build a relationship with my human self. And I began to understand that I have an unconscious mind. I have a conscious mind. There is higher conscious me as well. And I'm the one directing those. I'm not all of those bound into one voice. Michael Singer says, which I love, this is a quote that just is imprinted in my heart. We are not the voice of our mind. We are the ones who hear it. So that was huge when I'm like, whoa. And for everyone listening, The Untethered Soul is such a great 187 pages. It's one of the greatest starting points to start to understand that we are not the voice of our mind. We are the one that hears it. And Tad James, who I did my trainer's training through for NLP, he speaks about the concept of who's driving the bus. So who's driving the bus? One of the things that I do is I personify everything. I have this thing where I see everything as a person. Money is a person. My unconscious mind's a person. My conscious mind's a person. Cunty Jen's a person. All the versions of me, they're all personified. And this was super helpful because it helped me create a relationship with those parts of me, which is the basis of being human. And that's the starting point to begin, I believe, and this is what Allie and I teach. This is the foundation of what we teach. We call it an involution. So, you'd have to be living under a rock to not know the term evolution. And humans have been evolving for a couple of thousand years. And to me, we haven't changed much in a couple of thousand years. However, what doesn't get spoken about is the involution, creating an evolutionary process from within. And that to me does begin, and to Ali too, it begins with knowing that we have an unconscious mind, we have a conscious mind, there's higher conscious self, and we are the ones directing those parts of us. So I have a little metaphor which I'm happy to share, which will probably really, because conscious mind, unconscious mind, it's all a bit jargony. So this is my metaphor for understanding that we have these different parts of us. So imagine you're about to have a dinner party. So you've decided, I'm going to have a dinner party. I'm going to invite all my favorite people. And so you set up this amazing dinner party. You create this most exquisite table. You set it beautifully. You invite in all of the beautiful, beautiful parts of, the people that you want to have there at the dinner party. And you're sitting down and the conversation starts. And you're kind of just taking it all in and going, how great is this? And then what you notice is one of the people that you've invited is a loud talker. So they're very loud. They're very talkative. They're very boisterous. They're very sort of rambunctious in their approach to everything. And they're really kind of dominating the conversation. And what happens if you don't listen to, if you ignore a loud talker?
They get louder.
They get louder. Now, also at your dinner party, you have a really soft talker, a beautiful, gentle part of your person that's sitting there that has some exquisite things to share. However, they're a real soft talker. And what happens when you don't pay attention to a soft talker?
They retreat. They're like, I've got nothing to say here. No one's listening to me.
They retreat and they go silent. So at this dinner party, the loud talker is your conscious mind. The soft talker is your unconscious mind. And your job as the host of that dinner party is to bring balance to both of those conversations so that everybody at the dinner table can be heard.
I love that. I love how you've like conceptualized the difference between the two. Actually, because I write an article every month for Brains magazine, and I wrote about a process that I go through, which is so similar, which is having a team meeting. And so it's compartmentalizing. It's like, okay, the finance team needs to meet with the fun and games department and the adventure department. And then we've got like health and fitness has to meet with the nutrition department. Who needs to say what?
Yeah.
Because sometimes we're in a bit of an inner battle. It's like, oh yeah, chocolate cake for breakfast. And health and fitness is like, absolutely not. And then
I wrote in my book, I wrote a book a few years ago. That's what I did in 2018 when I left the current version of me. I wrote a book called The Power of a Peaceful Woman. And in the book is a chapter that says it's okay to have chocolate cake for breakfast.
Yes.
And in brackets, occasionally.
Occasionally. Exactly. And that's true. Absolutely. Because we, like as adults, we forget that we have the power to do anything we want to, and we can make it as extreme as we want to. And we can also make it as like beautiful and fulfilling as we can as well. Yeah. So we actually have this beautiful big permission slip when we grow up and move out of home to do whatever the fuck we want
Pretty much.
But and like, you know, we talk so much about conditioning. It's the conditioning, because as most people who've listened to this podcast, as you and I are both aware, we are born in that theta brainwave. We are sponges. We are bringing in every single piece of information, making up our mind about the world, and then growing up and living our life from that lens of that conditioning. And I talk about this particular concept all of the time. I grew up watching the movie Grease.
Me too.
Right. So I know the movie word for word. I then got to a certain
I don't know
age.
it word for word. However, so I'm like, yes.
Like I grew up going, I have to smoke cigarettes. I have to like look really attractive and change myself so boys will like me.
To be cool.
And so, and because that was the done thing. And then it was the music, the R&B that we were listening to in the 90s that was like, you think about it now and you're like, what
it's all programming. It's all programming.
Yes. Like I was listening to Mariah Carey like last week or something like that. And it was like, dream lover, come rescue me. Like I'll do anything for you kind of thing. And I'm like, now that I know what to listen to, like I know how to hear things. I'm like, man, I just want to go back and hug myself and be like, change the music.
And that's the, you know, we are not the voice of our mind. We're the ones that hear it. And Tad's who's driving the bus. So I love that so much, Jen, so much, because the language that we are listening to, so language to me is what we think, what we say, and sometimes what we feel, which is nonverbal language. The unconscious mind is listening.
Yes.
And the unconscious mind doesn't discern fact from fiction.
Doesn't give a shit about your feelings.
Doesn't know whether you're joking or not joking. Doesn't know whether you're being sarcastic or cynical. Doesn't know if you're just, you know, saying it to, you know, be cool and accepted in your social group. It just hears what you say and then goes, okay, facts, bro. Yes. Let me get that for you.
Yes.
Because that's its job. Its job is to get you everything you think and everything you say. I was just reading something today around the concept of manifestation. which to me is we could go on. We could have
That's a whole new topic.
That's a whole new
topic.
That's
another podcast.
That's another podcast
Yes,
episode. Happy to come back and talk about that. However, it was the concept though of manifestation being something that we do, whereas to me, manifestation is something that we are.
Yes, absolutely.
It's just who
who we be.
It's who we be.
Yeah.
And that is the basis of manifestation.
Yes, always. Yes.
Yeah. And again, there's a very healthy industry of manifestation out there, that also to me is setting quite a lot of people up to feel like they've failed now, even at manifestation.
Absolutely.
See, I'm not good at manifestation.
Yes, exactly. Because it's an industry. It's buy my course, right? The ones that are selling you how to do it, they're making their money by selling it to you. It's its own little ecology.
It is. Yeah.
And then they'll teach you how to go out and do that as well. And it's all about frequency. It's all about energy. It's all about who you be.
It's just who you be.
Exactly.
What you say to yourself and who you be. And language, language to me is so underrated as a tool, and reframing for me as a concept. Now that is something that should be, and do I use the word should here? Yes, I absolutely do. Should be taught in school.
Yes. How
to reframe our language from one thing to another. So from what we don't want to what we do want.
Yes.
So when I'm speaking, I've got this constant, thing going in my mind where, there's so many parts of me operating it simultaneously, Jen, now, and I love it. However, I can hear what I'm saying, and I'll ask myself this question: that thing that I just said, do I want more of that? If that was going to come to me more, is that what I want? Do I want it like that? And if it's not, I will literally just stop in the moment and go, okay, let me say that another way. Sometimes I used to be a bit of a jokester, and I still am. I think I'm very funny. If people ask me, I'll tell you, I'm very, very funny. My sense of humor is hilarious. And I used to use a lot of joking expressions, and I'm now very conscious even of the joking expressions and just reframing my jokes.
Yes.
To still give me more of what I want.
Yes.
And not what I don't want.
Yes. Yes, classic towards and away motivation.
Total towards and away. Yeah, which is Master Prac, right?
Yeah.
We talked about that off air. So just to close that loop for everyone, anyone listening, go, what do you mean? What's towards it? So towards is moving to, my metaphor for this, and I'll give it to you in a second. Towards is moving towards what we want, and away from is moving away from what we don't want. So my metaphor is, if you have to walk to I'm just picking a global geography point here that, well, let's say in Australia, if you had to walk from Brisbane to Sydney in Australia, you could either walk forwards from Brisbane to Sydney, which is towards, focusing on what you want. Sydney, that's what I'm focusing on. Or you could walk backwards to Sydney, which means you are now focused on where you are.
Yes, getting away from
where you are.
Yes.
And imagine just that, even physically in your body, walking forwards or walking backwards. Which one of those feels easier?
Yes.
Walking forwards, of course. So that's the towards and away concept.
I'd love to share mine on that too, which I teach my clients, because I love the way you've done it with the Brisbane Sydney. The way in which I teach it is, if, say, for example, someone is 20 kilos overweight, right? I'm uncomfortable. I don't fit into my clothes. I'm tired. I can't keep up with the children. I feel sluggish, right? So they go to the gym. And they start eating healthy. They've lost 5 kilos. And they're like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. This is great. They're like, I won't go to the gym this weekend. Oh, I'll just have that extra bowl of chips. All of a sudden they're back. They've put the 5 kilos back on. Oh, I don't want to feel this way. I feel tired. I don't fit into my clothes again. No, I went and I lost 5 kilos last time. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to get this weight off. They do so well. They get far enough away. They lose 10 kilos. They're halfway to their goal. They're like, this is amazing. But then they go on holidays. Oh, I don't need to work out. Oh, look at the buffet. Oh, let's just bottomless brunch. Let's just drink all the time. The weight goes back on, right? what's happening in their mind is they were so focused on what they didn't want to be that they were trying to move away from being uncomfortable, being overweight, not fitting into the clothes. They got far enough away to be like, oh, okay, I'm fine now. But they weren't focused on, well, what is it that you do want? You know, do you want to be, so someone that's losing 20 kilos is going, well, actually, I want to have energy. I want to feel good in my clothes. I want to be able to fit on a plane comfortably.
Yes.
You know, I want to be able to be strong.
Yeah.
But if you're trying desperately to get away from what you don't want, your perception is just trying to move away from that pain point.
Yeah.
And so when we focus on what it is that we do, and I say this to my clients all the time, don't tell me what you don't want. Tell me what you do want.
What do you want?
What do you want from this one wild and precious life?
Yes.
What do you, if you want it, oh, I don't want to be in debt. I don't want to be broke anymore. Like this, and manifesting 101. What do you want?
The number one thing that I'm the same as you, Jen. Like, how do you want this to be instead?
Yes.
So when somebody comes to me, client, student, whatever, friend, sometimes if I can subtly get this in, depending on the energy that they've arrived in, you know, when they're finished dumping out what's not working, which is effect, right? Cause and effect 101. Yes. So they're in full effect, you know, this is shit and that shit and, you know, everything's shit and my life's shit and I'm shit and everything's shit, right? It's just a big old pile of shit. And then once they've finished dumping that out, I will, if I can, counter, depending, of course. I don't do NLP in my, you know, when I'm just, you know, with my family and whatever. I literally just will be Jen. However, I still will probably somewhere in there say something like, if this could be another way, how would you like it to be? You know, if this could be any other way, what would you like it to look like?
And most people, like, they're so deeply in their shit that they can't see the forest for the trees.
Of course.
They can't see the way out.
I mean, I put my hand up, you know, when it comes to being human, I've done this, I've been this, you know, one of my favorite expressions is this too shall pass and this too shall come again.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, to me there's a piece missing off that this too shall pass. This too shall pass suggests that, you know, that
law of impermanence.
And to me, this too shall come again is the living embodiment of the law of impermanence. Yeah, of course it will come again.
Yes.
You know, we will always be human. And that I'm not exempt from that. Jen's not exempt from that. Nobody, no one is exempt from that. So, however, knowing that you have some tools to, you know, either take the bumpy, you know, horrible route of being human, or you get to take the beautiful scenic route of being human. That comes down to literally one thing to me, and it's language. It's the words we speak.
Yes. And I think this is where, and I'm finding this in conversations with clients that come through for coaching, is that traditional therapy is becoming outdated. Because it's all talk about the things. It's not the changing. There's no embodiment. There's no what is it that you do want.
Yeah, I'm having a chuckle here because Allie, I'm sure when Allie listens to this episode, she will laugh as well. One of the things that I used to be very hooked into was what I now call talk therapy.
Yes.
Where you can literally talk about the issue, the problem, the challenge for years on end.
Yes.
And still be no closer to having what you want.
Yeah.
You will just know in detail what the challenge is.
And what you don't want. And you're hanging out in what it is that you don't want. Absolutely. And this is why I love the coaching space. And because like we've got the duality of the coaching space of like regulated industry, unregulated industry. And so there's a lot of cowboys, as we know, in the industry, which is fine. There's someone for everyone, and we're all here to learn our lessons.
Yeah.
You know, but from the coaching space, we're allowed to, I guess, take people that extra step. You know, I had a client last year who we worked through some really big fear things, and we worked in just rewiring, but it came to a point where it was like, okay, we need to solidify this. So I threw her out of a plane. We went skydiving. And it was like, you can't do that with a psychologist. You can't do that with your counselor.
Talk about, my son would be really down with what you were just saying. It's you know, the rapid desensitization.
Yes. And I love it because, and it's not that I'm like clients come to me just to go skydiving. I mean, if they want to, I would love that, because it's what I love to do in my edge. But what it does is, and I even said to a client yesterday who's going through some big stuff, I said, I've got your address. If I need to come to your house and drag your ass up, I will. Not on my watch am I letting you slide through the cracks like anywhere else. Like, you want to employ me as your coach. I'm not here to just boost you up and talk about rainbows and butterflies.
Definitely not.
I'm in the trenches with you. In fact, I've got a shovel and I'm like, I'm going to dig this trench further to get you out of here. Come with me. Because sometimes people just need that, like, reach in and get you.
You and I are we are definitely tarred with the same brush. 100%. Allie, the same as well. It can be quite confronting in our training space because we will not climb into your story with you.
Yeah. This episode of the Enlifen podcast is proudly sponsored by the Sanctuary of Self, your portal to self-discovery and creating a sanctuary within. At the Sanctuary of Self, our philosophy is rooted in the belief that true transformation begins with knowing yourself deeply. Here you will find my signature programs. It's the home of all of my Tantra offerings, including in-person sessions in Brisbane, workshops and trainings all around Australia. I invite you to start with the Flourish Collective membership, a nurturing sanctuary for personal growth and transformation. This membership offers a greenhouse of resources, including workbooks, meditations, and soulful self-paced practices designed to help you cultivate alignment, purpose, and self-love. At only $44 per month with no lock-in contract, you can access an abundance of resources, videos, ebooks, meditations, and workshops with new content added monthly. Head to sanctuaryofself.love for all the juicy details. Yes.
And when someone is really attached to their story, they will fight. They will fight. And I mean humanly fight to be right, that their story is the way it is. And they will sometimes fight you, me, on that, and that you don't understand. You're not listening to me.
You've got no idea.
You've got no idea.
You haven't lived this.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you know what's really interesting? And I've shared this on the podcast before. You're going to love this. So you and I both had monumental 2017s in such a different way. That was when my relationship with my kid's dad broke down. And it was huge. 2018 was when I was like, let's go off the rails a bit and let's catch ourselves in time. And I was listening to a podcast. I was running a gym at the time. I was listening to a podcast, and it was a Melissa Ambrosini podcast, and she was interviewing someone who was a hypnotherapist. And I was like, that's it. Like, I love the mind. Like, I want to study hypnotherapy. So basically 10 days later, I was in Sydney at the Institute of Applied Psychology studying hypnotherapy and psychotherapy. And I was like, this is going to help me sort my life out. Now, as much as, we did a lot of prac in that, it wasn't super tailored personally. It was kind of like you paired up with someone, and in between prac sessions every month, we're like, we need to go fuck our lives up a bit so we can come back. We got content for the next round so we can hypnotize ourselves out of it, right? And so I got towards...
That's cool. I love it.
I got towards the end of... I was a couple of months into the prac training, and they said, look, we do recommend you learn NLP because there's so much language in that. And to give you a bit of context, like following the separation that I went through, I had the kids every second weekend. I was partying like a rock star because, as you may know, sometimes with traumatic events like a separation, you want to regress to the time that you were happy beforehand. So I went back to who I was before the relationship, and I was the fun party girl. Yeah. So I was going to bars and clubs, and it's taking longer.
Safety, right? That's the last place that you felt
safe. Exactly. I felt like a somebody, and I was looking for something outside of myself. There was like nothing inside. My language is before I knew NLP. My language was, I am dead inside. And my boss at the time, who was an NLP trainer, was like, you can't say that. I'm like, fine, I'm emotionally calcified. So I was like, I'll give you a rewiring. And I was so numb inside, and I was running a gym. I had lost a hell of a lot of weight. People thought I was training. So people were complimenting me on how good I looked. I was smoking, starving, and stressing. and then I got addicted to people going, wow, you look amazing. Oh my God. And I was like, well, I can't get off this train.
Now I've got to keep going.
All my life.
That was me with achieving. I got so much love and recognition for achieving. I was on the train.
Yes,
and
I was a little validation bunny.
I was on the train all my life.
Yes, exactly that. And so I remember getting into the NLP room, and there was two trainers, a male and a female, and it was the male. I'd never met him before. I'd heard like he was this really big name. He used to speak on stages with like Richard Branson, Tony Robbins. I was like, who is this guy? Whatever. And I remember at the start, so we were on the first day, and he's basically sort of going through, you know, look, if you want to be a coach at the end of this, if you want to be a good coach, if someone's in a process in any of this, don't touch them, don't console them, let them be in their process. Otherwise, if you try and like make them feel better, you'll be a shit coach, right? So that was in my mind. The first day of the training, the NLP, I got into the room and I was like, I've been doing all of this other training. Like I can hide my shit real well. No one's going to know what's going on for me. And we were in a small group of I think there was about 8 of us in the room. And anyway, on the first day, I was like, oh, I'm feeling some feelings. And I remember, Jen, that night I went home and I'm like, I need to cry and there's nothing in here. Like, remember, I'm dead inside and I'm emotionally calcified. And the movie that I downloaded was Beaches with Bette Midler because I knew that I could cry at the end of it because I cry every time. So I downloaded Beaches, and at the end I was like, okay, now I'm done now, right? And I get into the room the next day and I could feel myself cracking open. Like they were triggering the shit out of me with some of this content. And there was no slipping through the cracks in such a small room. I didn't realize the NLP work I was going to be doing would be working on myself, not just teaching. I'm like, I can do this for other people. I've done this in hypnotherapy and psychotherapy. I'm the facilitator. I'm the practitioner.
I just got our stories are so aligned. I went into my prac going, I'm going to be the best coach ever.
Exactly.
And just complete breakdown on the first day.
Yeah.
Like,
so
what the heck?
So the second day, which was the Saturday, I turn up into the room and I'm feeling quite reserved. And I was like, all right. And so Jeff, who was one of the trainers, he called me out and he looked me in the eye and he was like, your whole life is a lie and no one's coming to save you. And I was like, go fuck yourself. Like, go, who the fuck do you think you are?
You and I are such two peas in a pod. You cannot make this shit up.
Oh, I was like, you're just some fucking ringing guy. Like, do you think you can speak to women like this? I'm a mother. I'm a single mother. You don't even know. You don't even have kids. You're not even in a relationship.
You don't know my life.
Who the fuck are you?
Yeah,
and he triggered the shit out of me. So anyway, we went on the lunch break.
God, I love this.
And I went to the park next door.
Have you heard of Landmark? Have you heard of Landmark?
Yes.
Yeah. So I ripped a second asshole for the Landmark seminar leader in the break. I'm really relating hard.
You get it.
Keep going.
Get it. I went on my lunch break and I was sitting in the park next door to where we were training and I just started crying and I was like, fuck this. Like maybe my whole life is a lie. Maybe I'm just so fucked up. I'm just too fucking far gone. What the fuck am I doing here? And one of the other girls who I knew quite well who was doing the course, she saw me upset and I was like, don't. Like, just leave me.
You and I are seriously, our lives are literally a sliding door. Oh, I'm just sitting here. I'm not joking, Jen. Like, it's such a parallel. It's like, pull this Jen out. Oh, whoops, I've just hit the mic. Pull this Jen out and put this Jen in. Like,
yes,
truly.
I feel like we are. We've like this cut from the same cloth.
So many parallels here.
So I was looking at the time and I was like, I'm not going back after lunch. I was like, fuck this. Fuck you. So I messaged my boss, who was the other trainer, and I said, can you please bring my things to the front desk? I will be collecting them and not re-entering the room. And I waited and I didn't get a text back. And I was like, fuck. So I gave it another 15 minutes and I went back in and everyone was like, oh, where have you been? Like, you're over lunch. And I'm like, I'm leaving. So I got my stuff, dramatically.
Dramatic. I was just going to say there
And
would have
I
been some
walked
dramatic.
out.
There would have been a dramatic movement here.
And Jeff turned around to come after me to go, "Are you okay?" And I looked him dead in the eye and I said, "Don't be a shit coach." And he was like, I didn't even know why the fuck I'm here. He's like, I've just come out of like this hiatus of training. Why the fuck am I here? So my boss at the time, Marina, came after me because I was so used to being dramatic, running away, waiting for someone to come after me. That was my pattern. And he called me out on that no one's coming to save you.
Yeah.
So I grabbed myself.
Yeah, how confronting.
Yeah.
To have your story,
how
your
dare
pattern,
you?
your conditioning, the thing that was keeping you upright in life, be challenged.
The ultimate control and power that I had over people was to be like so out there that like they would have to beg for me, you know?
Yeah. And,
so,
bend to your will.
Yes,
in
absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm relating. I'm truly relating so hard here.
So Marina came after me. She met in the stairwell and I was like, oh, thank God someone's coming. She's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "No, I'm not. This is fucked. Who the fuck is this guy?" And she's like, "I'm really worried about you." I'm like, "I'm done." She's like, "What do you mean you're done?" I said, "No, I'm done." And I was like on the verge of like losing it. I'm like, "I'm just fucking done with the whole thing." And she was like, "I'm really worried about you. Do you want to just take the afternoon off and come back tomorrow?" I said, "No, I'm not coming back. You don't understand. I'm not coming back." She goes, "Are you going to be at work on Monday?" I said, "I'm not coming back. I'm done. I'm just done." So I went down to my car and I sat.
Jen. What a moment.
I sat in my car and I waited and I'm like, surely someone's coming. I'm in my car. I'm like, fuck, I've actually left. Someone will come.
Now what do I do?
And now I was like, I made such a scene. I could have drive home now. So I drove home and I wrote letters. I wrote letters to my kids. I wrote my letters to my family. I'm like, I'm actually fucking done. I'm tapping out. Yeah. And then a couple of hours later, I hear this knock on the door. And I knew in that moment that I had a choice. And I got up and I answered the door. It was Marina and one of the other guys who was in, the only other guy that was in, not the facilitator, he was a participant. And not a word was said. But all I did was open the door and I fell into them and they just got me to the floor gently and everything came out.
The breaking open.
The breaking of everything.
I can just feel this so fully for you.
The tears and the snot and the blubbering and the sound and the
shaking. Shuddering.
The full like somatic experience that came through. It was like everything that was calcified then just started to break down and come out and dissolve. And I remember Marina put her jumper, she had a pashmina, and she put it like under my forehead because I was on the floorboard. She's like, "I don't want you to get a bruise." But they just sat there, not a word was said. They just sat there and occasionally they just, "Hey, we're here." Just held space for me to just
let you feel everything that was probably asking to be felt your entire life.
30-something years worth of like pushing parts of myself down, manipulating people, and then realizing that no one is coming to save me. They weren't there to save me. They were there to make sure that I hadn't topped myself like I said I was going to, or I alluded to. Yeah. And you get to a point where it stops. You run out of tears. You run out of snot. You felt everything, and then you get up and you're like,
and there's a lightness.
It's a huge lightness.
It's a huge lightness.
It's a rebirth in the fact that you've let everything go, that from that moment forward, you get to decide what it is that you want from your life. And then we put on some music and we started dancing. And I remember I had some these beautiful printouts I hadn't hung them on the wall yet. And Marina said to me, she goes, "What are they?" They were like certificates. And I said, when both of my kids turned 1, I named a star after them and I had their names. And she's like, "Why don't you do that for yourself?" So then I got online that night. I get emotional talking about this.
You can see my eyes are just like,
I got onto the star registry and I named a star after myself in the Phoenix constellation.
Of course. I have a little Phoenix tattoo on my body.
And then I went back into the room the next day, one hell of a tail between my legs, and Jeff looked at me and he's like, welcome back, sister. He's like, you will make an amazing coach because you came back.
Because you came back. Just going to say that.
Yeah.
Because you came
back.
Which is the epitome of the breakdown of a story.
Yeah.
The breakdown of a belief system that's been holding you captive.
And it shattered every version of myself, my narrative, my story. It was like going from girl to woman. It was a maturing to go, I'm not that person anymore. I don't have to play these games. I actually get to hold radical self-responsibility. In fact, no one is coming to save me. It's all an inside job. And previously, I didn't want to believe that because I'd been in partnerships that were a little toxic at times where it was like, fight, 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 run away. They come after me. Okay, cool. You still want me.
Oh, I had a whole 11-year relationship of that, like on the non-stop, like truly non-stop. Yeah. And it went that way. It was just this continued repetition of this pattern that had nothing to do with them. Like it was
full self.
Yeah. I created that. I did that.
Yeah. And so that was my initiation, you know, and I sat and I learned everything that I needed to, and I felt it. And it was really interesting because most of the people that were going through the course at some point had their version of a breakdown, a breakthrough. Some were sort of like a chronic experience where it was like really sort of long-winded, whereas mine was acute. It was like, dunk, dunk, hit the bottom, come back up. Okay, cool, let's go. There's no right and wrong way to have a breakdown.
Again, the parallels for you and I are just so beautiful. Same. That it's usually, you know, it's like a atomic bomb going off. However, the couple of really massive, and now I'm also this is why this too shall pass and this too shall come again. It's why I take so much peace and calmness and certainty from that expression. This too shall pass and this too shall come again. I know that's going to happen again. I know I'm going to have more of those. They may be as big, they may not. The whole point of being human is to be able to navigate those unravelings and those unbecomings so that we can move through this planet and this world and this human fucking experience being able to be with our human selves. And the oxymoron to me of being human is we are meaning-making machines. We are never not going to make meaning of things.
Exactly. That's what we're wired to do.
We are wired. That's how our species has survived. You know, we're the only sentient being that has the capacity to make meaning of stuff. And so, you know, like, yes, that is always going to be a thing. It's always going to be a thing. And how do we move through this human experience knowing that that's the whole point?
Yes. The whole point is to go up and down, in and out. So I always bring people back to nature.
Oh, I say animals. I go, just look at animals. If you want to figure something out, just watch animals. Animals will show you exactly how to navigate being human.
I say the same with seasons. I say, look, you know, we're in autumn at the moment. There's not one person outside trying to sticky tape the leaves back on the trees because they're falling.
I call that my apple tree philosophy. And that comes into the cycles. We're not meant to produce apples 24/7.
Exactly.
We're just not.
So why are we putting pressure on ourselves when we remind ourselves that we are nature? Why do we put pressure on ourselves to constantly be doing and blooming when we have to go through these shedding cycles?
It's meant to happen. It's how we are meant to be as humans. And if we can learn to be more empowered with our use of our language and the reframing of the meaning that we may have given something in the past that isn't effective for us in the now, how can we reframe that, get a perspective shift that brings us back into that forward momentum again, that moving towards.
Yes.
So we're always moving towards that which we want more of.
Yes. And there's going to be times where we forget and we get stuck in ourselves.
This is why I say we know that when you wake up every single day, it's like a Groundhog Day thing. We wake up human first.
Mm-hmm.
And our job throughout the day, if you choose to accept it, is to continue to come back to being a more conscious human.
Yes.
However, you are going to be human first.
Mm-hmm.
I've drawn so much peace from that. I'm always going to show up human first.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just how big a gap there is between human me and conscious human me.
Yeah.
And then knowing I'm always going to slip into being unconscious human.
Yes, absolutely.
Because it's the whole point.
Mm-hmm.
However, if we can learn how to be in a relationship with our minds, unconscious mind, conscious mind, higher conscious self, which is not much to do there with the higher conscious self if you in a relationship with the conscious mind and unconscious mind, just my belief there. We will always be able to calmly be with our humanness.
Yeah. I always bring it back to the breath, because how we are in small ways is how we are in all ways. And if we look at what happens with our breath, we expand out and we go out into the world and we do all of the human things. But then we have to contract. We have to come back into ourselves. We have to come back into that awareness. And then we wake up in the morning, we're like, hey, I'm human. I'm doing all the things. Look at me out in the world. And it's like, and we're retreating back in again. And as women, we follow cycles. We are cyclical beings. 100%. If we're not working with our own inner cycles, we're working against the law of our own nature.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, that's a foundational part of Allie and our world, the inside the mind world. And we kind of clip it into conscious mind, unconscious mind. So conscious mind to us is masculine energy. It's the doing part of us, the part of us that figures out and
structure,
right? System, structure, doing. And then the unconscious mind is the feminine part of us, the feminine energy, which is the more feeling and the more intuitive and flowing self.
Beautiful.
And so that's another way in which, for me, I'm constantly navigating being human. It's all the same, Jen. Like when we can really look at it in this peeled back way, it's all the same.
It is,
it's
absolutely
all the same. It's knowing though that you are driving the bus. Just to quote Tad again, knowing we are the ones driving this human skin suit.
Yeah. And from that, we get to decide what experience we want to have, from that deep conscious awareness to go, hang on a second. Yeah. This is me here. Main character energy. Yeah. What is it that I'm choosing? What is it that I am deciding based on my actions every day? What is the thought process? And we have neuroplasticity. We have ways in which we can change our mind. We create these new neural pathways. Yeah. There's multiple ways in which we can do that.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's so powerful, because that's the true awakening, I feel. For me personally, like I get my head in the bucket and, ayahuasca ceremonies, and that's my versions of awakening. And some people find it in breath work. Like there's all different ways to find it, but there's also the everyday stuff as well.
Oh, it's in the everyday.
It's in the everyday.
Everything that we need to, grow as a human being, or to really become more human and to embrace our human selves. You don't have to go anywhere. You literally can get up and walk to the shopping center, or get up and walk to your post box, or get up and have a conversation with a partner, a child, or a friend. You will have all the fodder you need to practice being human.
Yeah, I amplified mine when I was like, oh yeah, plant medicine's for me. And to me that like blasts things open very quickly to get to a deeper place, because that's how I've, that's my jam. And it doesn't have to be that way. It can be like, it gets to be choices every single day that you make. Like I call it the golden compass, like follow your full body fuck yes.
Yeah. That's it in a nutshell. Yeah. Does this feel good to me?
Exactly.
Find what feels good. That's a Yoga with Adrienne phrase that she uses repeatedly. However, to me, it applies so perfectly. People will sometimes say to me, I don't know what to do. And I go, I disagree. I believe we all always know what to do.
Yeah.
If we check in with every micro decision that we make, you will know for yourself what to do. Now, whether you have the capacity to act on what you know, that's where the work is to me. We still always know. Do I know food that's going to make me feel good or food that's not going to make me feel good? Yeah. Is that likely to change on a daily basis? For sure it is. Why? Because I'm a cyclical being. Some days I'm going to want the apple pie and ice cream, and some days I'm going to want the fresh salad, for example. And it's only when I'm fighting with that that I'm going to come unstuck. Because now I'm in resistance. Now I'm in resistance to the what is, which is fighting. This is the fight that I see humans have with being human.
Constantly. And why? We're here for such a short period of time. We have the most beautiful world around us. We get to have the most incredible connections, drink glorious cacao. We live in such an amazing world, and we're just fucking it up a bit.
well, we're making it way harder.
We're overcomplicating
than it needs to be.
Absolutely.
Really way harder than it needs to be. Yeah.
One of the things that I like to, especially people in the coaching space, that I always love to ask the question of, because I find that sometimes we get put on pedestals by people to be like, oh, but you've got all the tools, and listen to you guys go, you've had the breakdown, the breakthrough, all of that kind of stuff. And we always say we're not exempt from the shit show. So I'd love to hear something maybe personally that you're working on to let us know that you're human.
Oh my goodness. I have just I'm literally in a breakthrough right now, working through a breakthrough right now. So I wouldn't say I'm in the depths of it. I'm in the other side of it and the integration of it. So the end of last year, I began journeying with my Gene Keys. So Gene Keys is a contemplation. We all have a holograph made up of 11 gene keys, and the whole process of gene keys is that it's a DNA activation, and it's a contemplation. So, however, once you start to open up the contemplation of your gene keys, it kind of, for me, I'll just speak for myself here, it's like busting the dam on a waterfall. So if everything's kind of just been sitting, you've had a beautiful, serene lake of water, and everything's just like, yeah, this is amazing, like the beautiful hum of life. And then you decide that you want to activate your gene keys, and you take that journey. It's like, it's like a big, jet plane comes in and drops a bomb on the dam that's been holding this body of water so calmly. And now the water just flows, and it's like, what the fuck? I thought I had already journeyed with this. I thought I'd already looked at this. So I have been in the depths of journeying with the concept of support. Now that's a kind of, I'm making that look very, simple. For me though, support, I had some patterns and programming still within me, and I know that I'll have more around support actually being a physical threat to me. So any form of support. Now think about this. If we just think about this now and sort of chunk down a little here and get specific, support, receiving love, receiving money, receiving help, receiving information, receiving guidance, receiving wisdom. All of that fell under the umbrella of support for me. And support, because of some programming that I was carrying, was akin to a physical threat to my body. So on a micro level, I could feel when it's kind of like slowing. You would know this, Jen. It's like when you really come into tune with your body and your thoughts and thinking, you will be able to start to notice that there will always be a feeling or a sensation, for a better description of that, a sensation in the body, in the nervous system, that precipitates a thought and then an action. So I became, I've become quite attuned to noticing the sensations in my body. So thanks, Gene Keys, for bringing this up and showing me that I still had some really deep conditioning around support. And when I unpacked it, the sensation that I felt in my body was like, imagine someone coming at you with a knife.
Yeah.
That was the sensation that my nervous system was firing off at a micro level anytime anything that even resembled support was coming towards me.
Wow.
Which just, on the flip side, to me, every coin has two sides. The flip side of that coin was, is me being hyper independent, hyper, I can do this myself. I had an example, I had a living example. And it's once you start to unravel this, then we can start to notice it very clearly.
Yes.
So the other day when we talked off air, I just have a little hip injury at the moment. I had some x-rays and CT scans and they came back, and the course of action was to have the x-ray and the CT scan first. If they came back clear, then I was to have an ultrasound. So the CT and the x-ray came back clear. And my first response was, what the fuck? Like, well, I'm not going to have a fucking ultrasound. I'll just figure this out my fucking self. And in the moment, like, this all happened like that, just very quickly. And I went, oh, hi you.
Yeah.
Hi you that's always felt that support, is a threat. What do we know about support now? Oh, okay. What's our new belief? Our new belief is support is an act of love. So in that moment now, having had that massive break, it was when I say I had a massive breakdown around support, it was massive, like I'm talking, on the ground, having, crying, snot, shuddering, all of that.
Perfect.
And again, it's, this too shall pass and this too shall come again. However, the other side of that now has opened me up to being even softer and more open, and having my heart stay open for longer periods of time. And it's just a beautiful thing. So I'm always navigating something, Jen.
Yeah,
like
we are.
In all seriousness.
Yeah.
I'm just here for it. I'm here to be in the navigation of it. When you used the metaphor before about, digging the trench and just grabbing the shovel, I am in the trenches of humanity with the humans that want to be in the trenches there as well.
Yeah.
And, there's no, I don't know more than any other person. I don't have anything that is necessarily any better than any other person. I've probably just been at this consciously, maybe a little longer,
a little deeper,
or a little deeper. I've spent a little bit more time, or I've, that's all. However, every human has the capacity to change their life just simply through language. Like, language is, to me, it's the one thing that we all have access to that has the capacity to help us grow and evolve and decondition from the programming we all will have been given. Every human will have conditioning, because why? We've already said, because we are meaning-making machines.
Yeah.
You grow up and your sister gets an ice cream and you don't get an ice cream, and you make that mean something.
Yeah.
And I think on that, it's important to say too, the conditioning that we all have as human beings, I think there's a bit of a misconception out there that it's it comes from some sort of big traumatic event. It can, and mostly it doesn't.
Yeah.
Mostly it just simply comes from the tiniest decision that you made about something that nobody else would have made in that moment. you made that decision, and that decision is what contributes to the conditioning. And then unconscious mind goes looking for the evidence of more of that. And so we begin to find more evidence of the thing that we just decided. Oh, look, it's here and it's here and it's here. And before we know it, we're fucking grown-ass adults with, belief systems that are like, what the fuck is this?
Exactly that. Exactly. We're all just a little fucked up in adulthood based on our whole entire existence. And I think this is the beauty of having awareness of this now, and us being in the space of, facilitating others. But, as parents, we get to support our children. Like, my kids are 8 and 10. Like, they're at this beautiful age where I get to support them with their language and how they speak to themselves and each other and other people, and how they view the world. And I can only, dream of having an impact on them, that they'll have impact on other people just as a ripple effect throughout their life, and that's the most that I can ask for.
Yeah. And that's the most that we can ask for on any given day, Jen. The version of me that arrived here this morning is now, based on our conversation, is not the version of me that is going to walk out the door. We are our internal models of the world are constantly shifting and changing based on our interactions with the world. That's the whole purpose of being human.
Exactly.
That's how we be human.
Exactly.
It's if I start speaking anything else, I'm going to open up we'll go into a whole nother depth.
And I feel like we could talk for hours, but we are going to wrap this up. And I'm so grateful for you being here. Before we wrap up though, I have one final question for you. Jen, what is the meaning of life?
The meaning of life. For me, the meaning of life is to live as much of my life with my heart as wide open as I possibly can.
How juicy. Yeah, amazing.
That's the meaning of life.
We will link to all of you in the show notes and ways people can contact you. But if someone wants to be in your field, be in your stratosphere, work with you, what does that look like?
Well, ask me that question again.
If someone wants to work with you, if someone wants to be in your field, if someone wants to train with you, how do they go about that? What does that look like?
Yes. So I wanted to make sure that what I answered was to you, specific to your question. Language, right?
Yeah, it's all language.
Specific to your question. So initially, the simplest place to go would be to our website, insidethemind.love.
Beautiful.
That's where you'll find who we are, what we're about, what we're up to. I do also tell people that I am an FBI agent's dream. I am so findable on social media. If you search me on Facebook or Instagram, you will find me. You will find that one of the things I think I'm most proud of as this version of me is that the version of me that you get sitting here with you right now and the version that you see me on social media is the exact same version that you will find if you see me running parkrun on a Saturday morning, or if you see me in the gym attempting to deadlift 100 kilos, or if you see me in my community choir, which is like a pub choir, singing, belting out a banger. You will find that I am a very transparent, very human version of myself.
Amazing. I love that. Thank you so much for being here. You're an absolute sparkle of light. You are just a divine human. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, Jen, it's just been a blessing. I feel like we really could talk for hours.
Literally, yeah. And we will continue to. Absolutely. For awesome. Sure. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. I hope you love the Enlightened podcast, and the biggest compliment you can give me is subscribing to this podcast, sharing it, and leaving a rating and review. Feel free to follow me on Instagram. My handle is @JenHamiltonOfficial, and the podcast handle is Enlightened_podcast. You can also find the video version on YouTube on my channel. Just search Enlightened and don't forget to hit subscribe. Have a beautiful day and enjoy living the enlightened journey of life.